Before we get into the next segment, I want to take a moment to discuss what is an environment of deposition. So again, remember that we are simply talking about our sedimentary rocks. And as we've learned, there's several different ways that our sedimentary rocks can form, but the way we're mainly going to talk about are the ones that form through erosion. So be sure that you remember that these are the sedimentary rocks that we're going to be talking about. So if we have a rock, let's say here we have our starting rock, and the rain, right, falls down on it, and the wind whips across it, what's going to happen is that rock is going to start to crumble. So maybe right now we have these little bits and pieces of rock. Well, those little bits and pieces of rock are going to travel down through rivers. Right? So let's say here we've got a river, and our sediment is going to travel down that river. And remember, Nemo taught us that all rivers lead to the ocean. So eventually, right, this is going to open up to the ocean, and we might get some, what we're going to call deposition. So deposition, let's clear this out here. Deposition, this is important, is where the sediment comes to rest. Now, this could be many, many different types of environments, and you're about to move into looking at all of these different types of environments. So, as you can imagine, each environment is going to have its own fingerprint. So let's think about this here. Let's say, and you already know some of this, just from using some very basic skills. Let's say you find a rock called a sandstone. That is sand that has been compacted to form a rock. Well, where do we find sand? Let's think about this. We can find sand in one or two environments. You can find it at the beach, or you can find it out in the desert. And see, you already knew that. But what this is doing is now we have figured out a fingerprint. So every different environment is going to have a very specific type of rock. And this is kind of some of the stuff you're going to go through. So for example, as we saw, right, maybe a sandstone is a beach. You'll see that maybe a conglomerate is a river. Or black shale is deep ocean. Regardless, these are fingerprints. So as you're going through this next section, I want you to start thinking about this as geology CSI. I want you to look at those clues and figure out what those clues mean. So keep that in mind because you're going to need to use this for your exercise that you're going to have to do for this chapter.